All righteousness without oneness is nothing but decorated malicious evil. Brother Dr. Ishmael Tete, The Mask of Righteousness. Take a breath. Let these words settle into your heart before your mind begins to reason with them. Because truth, when first heard, does not argue, it simply resonates. The world today is filled with those who claim to be righteous, the moral, the religious, the pure, the correct. They speak of holiness, of truth, of law and order, and yet, beneath many robes of righteousness lies the subtle seed of division, the quiet poison of separation. It is this poison that turns righteousness into a decorated evil, painted with divine colors, wrapped in beautiful speech, but deadly to the soul. For righteousness without oneness is not light. It is disguised darkness. It destroys while claiming to save. It condemns while pretending to uplift. Let us walk together into this truth. Let us unmask righteousness that has forgotten oneness, so that we may rediscover what it means to be truly good, truly whole, and truly divine. The illusion of righteousness. Every age has had its righteous ones. They come with scriptures, laws, and systems, declaring what is right and what is wrong, who is saved and who is damned. But righteousness, when divorced from oneness, becomes arrogance. It is the man who builds a temple for God, but denies the beggar at the door. It is the priest who condemns another faith, believing himself to defend truth. It is the activist who screams for justice, but hates those who disagree. Such righteousness is not born of the Spirit, it is born of ego dressed in light. Think of a man who polishes a glass from the outside until it shines in the sun, yet inside it remains filled with dirty water. That is the state of false righteousness. It appears pure, but its essence is unclean. True righteousness begins not with rules, but with recognition, the recognition that the same life flows through all beings. When you see the divine in another, your righteousness naturally softens. It no longer needs to prove itself, it simply acts in love. Understanding oneness. What is oneness? It is the awareness that beneath all names, colors, creeds, and forms, there is only one life expressing itself through many faces. The ocean has many waves, yet all waves are water. The tree has many branches, yet all branches draw from one root. Humanity has many differences, yet all souls breathe from one source. To live in oneness is to recognize the same spirit that lives in you lives in all. It is to look at another and not see other at all. When oneness fills your heart, righteousness changes form. It is no longer about being right, it is about being real. It is not about rules, but relationship. You do not seek to dominate with your truth. You seek to harmonize through love. The great teachers of old knew this. Jesus prayed that they may be one. The Buddha saw no difference between himself and the suffering man. The Sufi poet Rumi said, "I looked for God and found only myself. I looked for myself and found only God." All spoke of the same thing, oneness as the core of divine life. When righteousness becomes evil. How does righteousness turn evil? When it forgets its source, when it begins to act without oneness. It starts small, a judgment here, a separation there. But soon it becomes a mountain of pride disguised as holiness. A story. There was once a village where two men lived, one a preacher, the other a farmer. The preacher spent his days condemning sin and teaching virtue. The farmer quietly shared his harvest with the poor and spoke kindly to everyone. When a famine came, the preacher said it was punishment for the sinners. The farmer said it was a chance to share what little they had left. Years later, when both men died, the preacher asked the gatekeeper of heaven, "Surely I enter first. I spoke for God all my life." The gatekeeper replied, "You spoke of him, but the farmer lived him." That is the difference between righteousness and true oneness. When people act for God, but without love, they become instruments of harm. History shows it clearly. Wars fought in the name of religion, oppression justified by purity, persecution done to protect truth. Such actions are decorated malicious evil, polished on the surface, rotten within. They destroy the very essence they claim to defend. The psychology of separation. Why do humans fall into this trap? Because the ego fears oneness. Ego survives only by comparison. I am right, you are wrong. I am pure, you are defiled. The moment oneness is realized, ego dissolves, and that is its greatest terror. So it hides under new names: morality, doctrine, law, culture. It convinces us that being right is more important than being whole. This is why nations go to war, families break, religions divide. We do not fight because we are different. We fight because we are separated in mind. Difference without oneness becomes division. In psychology, this is called projection. We project our inner darkness onto others and call them evil, while believing ourselves righteous. But the shadow we condemn is our own unhealed part. Until we embrace the totality of our being, the light and the shadow, our righteousness remains fragile, defensive, and harmful. The mask of morality. Humanity loves to appear good. We build images of ourselves, polish them, and display them for the world. But morality without love is just theater. It entertains the eyes, not the soul. Look around today. Corporations donate to charity while exploiting workers. Politicians speak of freedom while manipulating fear. Even individuals post compassion online while gossiping behind screens. This is the decorated mask of moral evil. It glitters, but it kills silently. An illustration. A poisonous flower can bloom beautifully in sunlight. The bee sees its color, lands gently, and dies sipping its sweetness. That is the world's righteousness without oneness, beautiful yet deadly. The greatest deception is not in the sinner, but in the self-declared saint. Because once the mind believes it is absolutely good, it stops growing, listening, and loving. It becomes blind, and blind goodness destroys more than open evil. True morality is humble. It does not boast. It does not point fingers. It acts quietly, knowing the same divine spark shines in both the fallen and the faithful. The way back to oneness. So how do we return? How do we purify righteousness from ego and align it with truth? The answer is simple, yet not easy. We must remember. Remember that there is no them, only us. That every judgment we pass imprisons us first. That compassion is not weakness, it is strength in its highest form. Practical steps to live in oneness. 1. See God in all. Before you react, ask, if this were God before me, how would I respond? That single thought transforms conflict into compassion. 2. Listen before you speak. Listening dissolves ego. It reminds us that truth is not owned, it is shared. 3. Serve quietly. The hand that serves without applause becomes an instrument of the divine. 4. Forgive. Forgiveness reconnects what judgment separated. It is not weakness, it is spiritual intelligence. 5. Meditate on oneness. Spend time each day feeling the pulse of life, the same pulse in every creature. The more you sense it, the less you can harm. Through such living, righteousness becomes radiant again, not because it seeks approval, but because it flows naturally from divine awareness. The heart of true righteousness. True righteousness is not about being perfect, it is about being whole. It comes from humility, the recognition that the source expresses itself through all forms, including those we do not understand. In the eyes of the divine, the saint and the sinner, are both students of the same lesson, awakening. When you see this, love becomes your law. You no longer act from fear of punishment or desire for praise. You act because you are love. Such righteousness heals instead of divides. It uplifts instead of condemns. It becomes light, not decoration. Reflections from life. Think of a mother correcting her child. If she scolds from anger, the correction wounds. If she corrects from love, the same words heal. The act is identical. The spirit is different. The same is true of righteousness. When it flows from oneness, it brings life. When it flows from separation, it brings death. In every religion, every philosophy, every heart, the same truth whispers, the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. Examples abound. The doctor who heals because he loves, not for fame. The neighbor who forgives gossip. The leader who admits his error. These are the faces of living righteousness. They may never be praised, but heaven records their melody. The decoration of evil is clever. It rarely shows its true face. It prefers to wear white robes and speak holy words. It thrives in systems where people are too afraid to question authority. It smiles, quotes scripture and says, "We are the good ones." But look closer. Where there is pride, there is absence of love. Where there is condemnation, there is absence of understanding. Where there is exclusion, there is absence of the source. Decorated evil feeds on appearances. It values the outer image more than the inner essence. It builds walls and calls them altars. It kills and calls it justice. It dominates and calls it discipline. Yet, beneath all its decoration, it is still what it has always been: separation from the divine flow of oneness. Living the union. To live in oneness is not to abandon righteousness. It is to fulfill it. Because true righteousness is not a behavior. It is a state of consciousness. When your heart awakens to unity, your actions naturally align with love. You do not have to strive to be good. Goodness becomes your fragrance, like a flower that does not try to smell sweet. It simply is. This is the secret Christ revealed, the Buddha embodied, and all awakened souls lived. Love God, love your neighbor, for they are not two loves, but one. Every act of kindness done from oneness is eternal. Every act of righteousness done from separation fades like dust. Return to the one. Righteousness without oneness is nothing but decorated malicious evil, for it glorifies the self and forgets the source. But when righteousness returns to oneness, it becomes divine artistry, not decoration, but illumination. As you listen to these words, let them stir something within you, a remembrance of who you truly are. Not a judge, not a defender of right, but a vessel of divine unity. Pause. Breathe. Feel the pulse of life in your chest. The same pulse beats in all beings. To live from that awareness is the highest righteousness of all. You have been listening to All Righteousness Without Oneness is Nothing But Decorated Malicious Evil by Etherean Mission UK. May these words guide you from judgment to understanding, from separation to unity, and from decorated evil to living righteousness.